You don't just walk in, lay your money down, and get tattooed. They have to study your character first. And if they don't think you'll be a credit to the work they put on you, they turn you down cold. That's the way I'm taking it from here on in.
Jerry's connection with Japan, it was interesting because he went through World War II. He really was, he had a love-hate thing, but he respected Japan enough that he wanted to get close to it. He studied the stories when he was in communication with these Japanese tattooers. He really wanted to learn, again, the analytical thing. How come whirlwinds turn that way? How come this kind of kimono goes with this kind of character? But the undercurrent was, we're going to learn this and we're going to beat them at their own game. The look that Jerry really got famous for and made a huge impact is that he decided to get more and more devoted to fusing in the Japanese look. Probably the one factor about the look of Japanese tattoos is the fact that they were doing water shading with the idea of a greater tonal range instead of just black ink that you shade out, ways that you would use a machine that you would draw out the tones. People weren't mixing the ink down. The Japanese were doing that, and that's what Jerry started doing. He was very analytical about that. So this had a terrific impact. People saw those photos and thought, oh my God, this guy, you know, he just was pushing the envelope. He was doing sort of his version of Japanese work, but with an American flair, a different kind of a thing to it.
What Sailor Jerry was able to do was be influenced by Japanese art, but make it his own. And that's what's so hard to do nowadays.
To take this idea of the Japanese layout, do a thing that you know, segues into sections of your whole body, maybe even has the backgrounds of the whirlwinds, the waves, the lightning, all that stuff, but do classic American subjects. He said, you know, you could do Washington crossing the Delaware, you could do, you know, Wild Bill Hickok, you could do all this stuff, because he consistently felt that you can't just blindly copy something. You have to take it and absorb it and learn all the rules and then transform it into something of your own. And that's why he was, frankly, so friendly to me. It was at that period that I came into contact with Jerry. I started tattooing in '66. You know, I'd been crazy about tattooing when I was a little kid. My best friend's dad had a bunch of tattoos from World War II. We were always screwing around with, like, well, let's play soldiers, let's play cowboys, let's play this. We were 10 years old, you know. Let's do tattoos on people. We started drawing tattoos on neighborhood kids. We figured out that there were real tattoo shops up at the Pike, 25 miles up the coast from us in Long Beach. We started going up there and hanging out. So I was obsessed with tattooing from when I was 10 to about almost 13, and then it was too little kid stuff, painting on tattoos. So I dropped it. I'm in art school, and I got reinterested in tattooing. Whenever I got a tattoo, whoa, you know, a real tattoo. Oh shit, the next night I go back to another shop, I get a second tattoo. I was trying to find this guy, Phil Sparrow. Finally, I go over to Sparrow's shop. The first day in there, he says, oh, you're an art student. He says, you want to see real art tattooing? Look at this. It's a book of photos of Japanese tattooing. It just flipped my head. Wow, Japanese tattooing, is anybody really doing Japanese work? And he said, well, there's this guy, Sailor Jerry, in Honolulu. And there's these photos of Jerry's work, and there's some tracings, rub-offs of Jerry's, a little bit of flash, and these photos of this guy, John Breen, that he did these legs on, and some other big pieces. Totally blew my mind. So, of course, then that's the quest. This is a holy grail. I got to meet Sailor Jerry. Well, Honolulu was so remote and exotic in those days. You know, it was not like a stop on the road like it is now, for the world shrunk. I'm going to write Sailor Jerry a letter. Send him photos of my work, and I didn't hear back. And I was just like, oh, shit. Then I go down to Seattle to meet Zeke Owens, who had a shop there. And Zeke was another guy, brilliant tattooer, and actually was good friends with Jerry.
I got in trouble in California again. I don't know, I beat up a couple of cops out there in San Diego. I'm sorry, guys, I was drunk. I met Jerry about 1964 or 65 when I went to work in Honolulu in Chinatown. And I was apparently the only guy in the States at the time that could call him and talk to him. And I worked in his shop a few times. That was a real privilege. So anyway, I guess Ed got over there, got him hooked up for a little while. And
then I wrote Jerry, Zeke told me to write you. And Jerry really respected Zeke. And through a whole series of contortions, I finally was able to establish a correspondence with him. And then the first time he sent me some photos, I just, I lost it. It was like, oh my God, this is phenomenal. We kept corresponding, and we were rolling toward really sharing everything we knew about this stuff and firing each other up. It was exciting. And we just, fused. I was the guy that he realized, he was sharing a lot of stuff with Zeke. He shared stuff, of course, with older tattooers he was in touch with. But I was the first guy that had come along that had been to art school. I had like formal education. Not that it made me better, but it was just a different take on art. And at that point, we were looking for a location. He was calling it like the Mid-Pacific Tattoo Institute. We were gonna have like a private room for the Japanese style work. And his attitude was, as usual, blow all these other motherfuckers out of the water. He says, we'll show them what we can do, and it was great.
Ed was Jerry's #1. Jerry invested a lot of time in Ed, really encouraged him. He was very proud of how good he got. And Ed got a lot of breaks from Jerry, a lot of important stuff that Ed learned, he learned from Jerry, They used to write each other like almost daily. There wasn't that many real creative tattooers in those days. One day I pick up the paper and there's a story about how the Museum of American Folk Art is going to do a show about tattooing. I come in and I say, listen, I got a lot of pictures and stuff of tattooing. Next thing you know, I'm working on the contemporary half of this show. I get a hold of Ed Hardy, and Hardy is hooked up with Jerry. I phone up Jerry, terrified. Jerry was famous for not dealing with media of any kind. But he wasn't stupid, he wasn't a stupid guy, and he saw, hey, Museum of American Folk Art, pretty soon in the mail comes a whole shit house of pictures and drawings. They were really impressive. The man's vision had, everything, the lines were nice, the color was all solid and beautiful. I was like, wait a minute, tattooing can be like that? The possibilities just started to reel in my mind. Holy, because I knew right away that the surface hadn't been scratched. And right away I put together, we can take this into the 20th century and it could be fun,
The old Kempo custom is to teach your students and help them improve, but always hold back the death blow special for emergency. And when they challenge you, they never know what hit them. Sneaky old bastard.
One reason I wanted to go to Hawaii and work with Jerry, not only to be with him, but I saw Hawaii as a stepping stone to get to Japan, which was really what I was after. He had introduced me to Kazuo Oguri and really got me hooked up and able to get an invite to Japan. Oguri had come over to Jerry's house in December of '72, and we had kind of a little mini convention. This is in the years before tattoo conventions. Des Connolly from Australia, and Michael Malone and I, and Mike's girlfriend came over from San Diego.
We all kind of came over at the same time for about a week to kind of pay homage to the old man. And Oguri got there last. So we all went down in Jerry's, he had one of those Thunderbirds. It was painted bright yellow, and he drove it like a demon. So we go out to the airport, we get Oguri. He heads right back to town. He's driving way too fast, scaring everybody to death. He finally gets to an overlook kind of place. There it is, all laid out, the whole Honolulu, Pearl Harbor, the whole thing. Kazuo, Pearl Harbor. We were like, oh, Jesus. So we were all staying at Jerry's house. It was great fun.
When we were all together at Jerry's house, and I was watching Oguri hand outline this dragon of chrysanthemums on Malone, I was just totally taken with it. And Jerry came through the living room, and Jerry made some smart-ass thing about Japanese or about Oguri or whatever. Oguri didn't understand really any English, And I remember clearly, I turned around and gave Jerry this stink eye, like, this is the great tattoo master. I was like so offended. And Jerry just looked at me, and then he said, it's been nice knowing you, And he could see that I was like, that was going to be my new god, working with Oguri.
He was mad, the old man, about that. I think maybe that was one of the reasons he went off to Japan.
There's an old saying about that someday your idols will get clay feet. Well, that idol's sitting out there in the jungle in wet ground, and that limestone and stuff they make the idols out of starts turning back into mud and falls over.
Anyway, Oguri, during that trip meeting in Hawaii, it was just a few days really, and Oguri invited me to come to Japan and work with him.
Ed Hardy, who worships Sailor Jerry, went to Asia. Went there. I got pictures of him in kimonos dancing in Japanese parades, and you know, fucking crazy son of a bitch.
The old man was brokenhearted about that. He had lost his zing, you know.
He was proud that I made the leap into Japan, but it was kind of like, you know, he didn't kick me out of the nest. It's like I jumped.
He was very excited about opening that Mid-Pacific tattoo clinic with Ed. He really had. He and Ed were gonna kill the world.
With his protege gone to the greener pastures of Japan, Jerry returned, alone, to 1033 Smith Street. The rugged years of high seas adventure and Hotel Street mayhem had taken its toll on the old master, yet he remained in raw character till the end.
He'd recently bought a Harley and
Came out, was feeling real weird, laid down in the parking lot next to the motorcycle and had a heart attack.
waking up on the floor of this place and going, oh, what the hell's going on? And he got up and kicked the Harley and rode home on it, you know.
But by the time he got home that night, he was real sick. And his wife was a nurse. She put him to bed for a couple of days, and he came back downtown and went to a Chinese herbalist. You know, they give him a bag full of lizard tails and, you know, toad eyes and I don't know, you know. Then he decided that it was, he thought he was going to check out. So he talked to his wife, Louise, and told her how he wanted the shop disposed. Me, Ed, or Zeke, or burn it. I was working for Zeke in San Diego. Ed was in Japan.
And I got the news actually about 2 weeks late that Jerry had died, and his widow was trying to get hold of me because I was first in line to get the shop, and I didn't want to leave Japan at that time.
Zeke thought that $20,000, there was no tattoo shop ever made that was worth $20,000. And I thought different. I thought it was well worth $20,000. If I hadn't taken it, it would have all been burned. Because he didn't want anybody to have it that he didn't approve of, you know.
Mike moved on the spur of the moment, and he renamed it China Sea Tattoo, and he took it over as a homage to Jerry's thing on the China Sea.
To be there with only 2 or 3 years experience and then just having just deluge with customers. I mean, it was crazy. I worked in Jerry's tomb for like 25 years or something. The first year or two that I was in there working, people would come by and go, "Where's Jerry?" You know? At first I'd go, "Oh, you know, Jerry passed away, you know, a few months ago." 6 months went by, people would come in, "Where's Jerry?" "Oh, Jerry passed away." "Yeah, passed away about 6 months ago." You know? By the time a year went by, people would come in and go, "Where's Jerry?" "Oh, Jerry's been pushing up daisies for a year. Jesus Christ." And what are you, the last to find out about it?
One of the things that I think is important about tattooing is that it really harks back to the artisans, if you want, to like a medieval or a Renaissance outlook, where the particular medium that you worked in was a discipline, that it was a thing that you had to work to get your entry into this world. It was very hermetic. It's like, okay, well, if you're going to work in this, you're going to learn it this way, you're going to do this, do this, do this, and you're going to realize that you're part of a lineage. And it's something that's virtually non-existent in the contemporary world. And a lot of the younger tattooers, anybody that's worth a shit that deserves to be in this racket, should embrace that. The ones that don't, I don't have any use for it. But the inner thing about being part of a tradition and respecting your teachers is very important. So, to me anyway, you know, it's what makes tattooing strong and interesting and helps balance out all the totally wacky shit that's in it, you know.
That's how fun.
I'm 19, and it just sounded like we're going to war in maybe a year, so I'll be 20 then. Waiting to get activated for the war. Nervous. Nervous for the tattoo or for war?
You know, I'd started making tattoo machines on my own, like really flying blind, not really knowing what I was doing, and I was painting flash without really having any idea what I was doing. I was corresponding with Mike Malone when he was in Hawaii. Very old-timey, you know, all letters, you know, no phone calls. He'd write me back, and, you know, I'd send him pictures of what I'd done or copies of what I'd done, and he'd write me back and tell me how horrible I was and that I should quit. I mean, he was brutal, just absolutely fucking brutal to me. And I'd always just write him back and say thank you, you know? I mean, you know, the customers, all they do is tell me how good I am, you know? I need somebody to tell me how rotten I am. Wrote me a letter, do you know any young tattooers want to work for a crotchety old man? And I was like, fuck, yeah, I'm there. You know, but I'm definitely of that sort of black t-shirt generation of tattooers. You know, there's tens of thousands of us that are, to the old guys, we all look the same, you know? We're all cool guying it around with black t-shirts. And just sort of learned a lot of stuff that a lot of kids don't know. Tattooing nowadays, you don't have to know any of that shit. You know, you can pretty much buy your needles pre-made, buy your ink pre-made, buy your machines pre-built, you know, buy your flash pre-drawn. You know, you don't need to know any of those old skills that those tattooers needed to know, because that knowledge is going to fade away. But what always kind of made me love tattooing was that sort of criminal aspect, you know, like all of it being real legitimate now is not, I don't necessarily think a great thing, you know. I mean, I really like the rough and tumble tattoo shop image of what I remember or what I've heard. My way may not be the only way, but it's the only way it'll get from me. I heard Dan Higgs say that once, and I think it's fantastic.
Jerry remained in love with tattooing. He remained in love with what tattooing could be, with the good aspects of it and the kind of nobility of it, for lack of a better word. He was enthusiastic about tattooing. He wasn't cynical about it. He was cynical about the people, most of the people in tattooing. He didn't have any respect for them, but he was cynical because he saw it as something that deserved respect, and he just figured they were bums, you know, which most of them were, you know. Most of them still are. There's just more of them, you know. Paul Rogers early on told me, he said, it's always been this way. He said, tattooing's like a pyramid. He says, there's a few guys right at the top that are really, really important, really doing great stuff, you know, like Jerry. Then there's like a little thin layer of people that are just good workers, and Paul classed himself as that. And he said, and then underneath that is just, and Paul, this total North Carolina hillbilly accent, he said, underneath that there's just this great big heap of bums holding it all up, you know.
This popularity that it has today has got to wane. The kid that's suckling a bosom right now, little baby, is trying to get in focus this butterfly that his mother has on her breast while he's feeding. He'll probably grow up with some type of an eye affliction. Then he gets to the kindergarten, and his kindergarten teaches flashes her wares and shows a butterfly she's got on her butt. So by the time that kid grows up, tattooing is going to be an establishment item to him, and it'll be the last thing he want to do is get a tattoo. So I think we're going to reap a crop of people that are untattooed one of these days.
As we become more advised and more advanced, that's a nice word. It's the same fucking doorbell.
The basic design is the same.
It's the same as you design a kiss. Never mind, I'm going to bend you over. Never mind, I'm going to stick my tongue down your throat. Never mind the French kiss. Never mind. Jesus, you get diseases. What the hell are we talking about?
Do you know, I really don't think I want to copy this.
I said, who are you? He said, I'm Nasty Mike. Who are you? I said, I'm Crazy Eddie, you motherfucker. What are you throwing knives at my friend for? He said, I don't like him, but I like you, he says. I said, good, I'm glad. My God, what a fucked up stampede.
They can fuck the same thing just year after year after year. They talk about same-sex marriage. If you're with one long enough, it's same-sex marriage. Jesus Christ.
You know, I mean, I'd have their pants down quicker than the guy had been going out with them for 6 months, you know. Of course, I always liked the view.
One time I was in a shirtless in my tattoo shop, and this sailor came in with this Japanese bride, and she read my tattoo and says, "Oh, maybe you no gonna die." And I didn't understand. I never heard that before. But I have survived a lot of crap. So.
He broke in on that tradition, which was really exemplified probably by Captain Coleman. And are you picking that up? Because of course, when I said, "Oh, it's so quiet here," some fucking guy would start. Is that coming through?
The long and the short and the tall. Fuck all the captains and all the mates too. Fuck the engineers and the whole goddamn crew. We're saying goodbye to them all. As back to our rust pots we crawl, we'll start a commotion that side of the ocean. So cheer up, my lads, fuck 'em all.